Right, hi, and here I am, as promised, to talk about and show you really the part of the project which involves the skeleton. So it's the starting off of the piece, and whilst it doesn't have to be millimetre accurate because you can adjust as you go, it's still quite important, and I'm going to take you through the little details and the decisions and why they matter basically in this particular project of the tiger. So I'm going to go to the overhead camera and do it mainly there, unless I need to nip back. So let's go to this camera first. Right, so here we are. This is actually a blown up, because this is the size that I'm actually going to do it, because this is how I work. I find the skeleton that I'm going to use, and then I basically photocopy it and do it to the size that I want it. You know, not a very good copy, as you can see, it's really faded, but it doesn't matter, just as I've got these major lines, which is what I'm going for. So this was the picture that I originally showed you. Perhaps if I go to that, this is the picture I originally showed you in the presentation, which shows this skeleton that I'm actually going to be working from, as well as the muscles, the musculature around those, around the skeleton basically, so you can see exactly where it happens. Now, one bit, let me go back to the bigger picture. One of the things which I have to consider is this bit here, the shoulder blades, because on certain animals I make a big deal out of these. When I did my wolf, the way a dog or a wolf's head is, the neck tends to be in down here. Now that's why it's quite useful to see this, because I can see that this is actually all joined up. There is no, you know, bending down and the neck coming out of there. Whilst they hang their head, it's still very much so. There's no point in me making a big deal about the shoulder blades. Now I'm going to show you an example. So I want to show you this. If I can move that out of the way, you can see that this is actually going to be a dog. Well, a particular type of dog. Anyway, there I made a big deal about the shoulder blades, because the dog's neck definitely comes down and out, and that's very much the way it hangs. So I made a big deal out of it, but I'm not going to do that in this one. So it's worthwhile just showing you, this is, you know, how all of my skeletons, okay, end up like this, which is I start with a long piece which vaguely shapes where the head is going to go, depending on whether there's a long snout or not. Then I do the shoulders, and then I join bits to make the legs and come back onto the back legs. And as I say, when I join the bits for the legs, it all depends if I'm making a big deal about this, because obviously with this piece, which is going to be the pangolin, we obviously do not make a big deal out of that, because I don't have these huge shoulders. But you can also see they have quite a different look here as well. Okay, so they don't have any kind of shoulder that I need to allow for. Whereas on these ones, you know, we have this bit which does come out to here. This bit here comes to here, so I need to make those bends. Okay, so basically I print out the skeleton in the size that I want it, and I vaguely measure from the head right the way back and down, and then I add a little bit more, then I times it by 2 because I fold it over. Whoops, there we go, I'll fold it over. Let me go to a bigger shot, shall I? Because I fold it over, okay, and that's where I start with my head. So let me do that. And as you can see, I've got all different thicknesses of wire here, and I've also got some millinery wire. So yeah, so millinery wire, very good, but it's also really difficult to bend. So there are pluses and minuses to all of these, depending on what I'm actually trying to get out of it. So here we go. We will start. Basically, I'm going to do a bit of a round bit for a head coming back, and then I need to join another piece which will come down and make legs. Right, here we go. This is where I can't decide whether I'm left-handed or right-handed. It's a sad state of affairs. Okay, squash that together. I always end up making two, because sometimes the first one's not quite the ticket. Basically, and often I want to remind myself, in case I want to come back and do another one. Let me get my ply. No, don't want those. Should have a big set of pliers here somewhere. There we go. Oh, right. There we go. We'll bend that in a minute. Ooh, there we go. Right. Boom, 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 and then that goes round there. As I say, this is where I always like to have a brief look at one picture. That's picture 2, because I know it's not going to go much beyond that. So I am just gonna, good goodness, seem to be knocking everything all over the place. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it like that so I can play around with that. That's going to come back to there. Okay, let's bend a bit more. Like I say, there is nothing scientific about my making of an armature. I think people get quite worried about doing it, but I think it's like many things, you just need to do it. Right, so we get back to there. So then we're going to start with our legs. Okay, so let me start with the I'm going to stay with the 14, I think I went for. Okay, so I'm now going to join a big piece which will form the legs, and that big piece that I'm doing will go back and do the spine. Okay, like I said, this is not measured at this stage at all. I measure what I'm using, so then when I can see what I'm left with, 30, 40, and we'll see what I can work with hopefully next time. I say hopefully. Right, so let's fold that in half. There we go. Okay, right. Let's see if I can get this on camera. without stabbing myself. Oh, that's the heater coming on, if you can hear that. A bit cold here in the studio today. Okay, so 1, 2. Okay, and then this one this way. I'm going to bend slightly off of camera here, because there we go. Okay, so there's kind of my little shoulder bit. That's a bit more than that, so I'm gonna take it round again. Like I say, but not science in my book. Right, now let's bring these back so that we can form the back and go down to the legs. Right, so just start, make sure that's as even as it can be. Okay, twist again. Right, where am I? It's when I get to this stage that I think, did I actually use enough wire? And so this is why sometimes I'm already planning the second one, which I can get done hopefully more accurately, or it could just be beginner's luck, but I get it right. Okay, a bit more. I think a bit more. There we go. Keep checking. Keep checking. Okay. Probably just that one. We'll do it. Yeah, because then that will get there. Okay. Right. So now I need. So this is where I make my decision as to whether the wire that I'm going to now wrap around the legs is going to be exactly the same wire, or whether it might be a little bit thinner, or sometimes I would leave it exactly as it is and just put something like a pipe cleaner around it, which makes it easier to add the fibre when you start off, basically. But the tiger has lovely strong legs. I intend to put him into the crouching position, and so I need some strong wire to make sure that basically you can do it several times and it's not going to, you know, break and get is it wire fatigue? I heard someone call it recently. I thought that was probably a very good way of describing it. So that's 18 and that's 14. So that would be like that. If I let me have a look at my dog's leg. So that was all using 18. So I'm going to do that. Yep. Decisions. Right. Okay. Now, when I'm doing the leg, I'm not going to do the whole foot because I'm going to do all that in fibre. So I'm only going to bring it down to, and then do a loop where I can sort of attach the foot, as it were. The foot is a whole skill in itself. Let's put it that way. Right, that's 18. Put that out of the way. Okay. Let's bring this in. Okay, now then, let's assume we need it about the same, shall we? Big assumption, obviously. And then add a bit for good measure. And then for the back, I mean, I think I've got plenty there. Yeah, you got plenty there. So I will no doubt be lopping bits off when I get to the end. I don't skimp when it comes to the wire, because I have to say the most frustrating thing is if you haven't done it long enough, it's really easy to chop it off. And just frustrating if you could have just added a little bit more and it would have been good to go. Right. So, as I say, not making a big deal about those shoulders, but just going to, it's probably a good idea once I get this bit done to measure for the length of the legs that I've ended up with. No, let's not do that way. Do that way. I'm not sure it makes a difference, but for some reason in that second I thought it did. Okay, let me do a brief measurement. So you to there, about 6, and then you to there are about 7, so it's about 13 and then a bit more. Yep, you got a way to go. There you go, 13. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Gonna pretty much get this bit right, I think. That little bit there, which is pretty amazing. So one piece was the right length. There we go. There you go, 13. Possibly just one too many. There we go, 13. Right. This side we have got 6. That's 6.5, isn't it? 6.5. 4 to 10.5, 16.5. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Just looks a bit like a scarecrow, doesn't it, at the moment? Boom. like I say, you are obviously going to fill this out with fibre and all sorts, but this is more to do with when I'm posing, to actually having the joints in the right place, so that then when I bend those legs into the crouching by the water, they're going to behave like they should do. I think I said in the VT that I was going to make sure I did the initial muscle quite soft. I said 16.5, didn't I? Yeah. So that when I put it into that crouching position, the muscles move where I need them to, in the same way that they would do in life. So one bit more. Okay. Let's start with this side. And it doesn't matter how accurately I measure this, I will still have one leg shorter and longer than the other, and I will adjust that as I do the sculpting. Okay. Now, probably gone not too far. Let's have a look. Yeah. How far have we done that? 16.5 to about there. Right. Okay. So this is when I start doing the bending. So let's get them over. Okay, now you're gonna go forward anyway, aren't you? So we'll just put that into position like that, because that's the way they will go. They'll actually go forward that way to start with. Okay, there we go. Well, it goes backwards actually, because that bit, we kind of start my leg bit from there, because that's the shoulder bit. So it is forward already. Okay, and you've got a bit of a curled back to there, and yeah, make sure you've got that neck there, right? Okay, and I'm going to get to that, bend to there, and bend, and then we've got that area for the foot. So where did we bend you at? Yep, it was the 7th. Okay, and with that, it was kind of 5.5, to be honest. 5.5, almost 6. 5.5, almost 6 is about there. Let's have a look. And then so that will be the foot, which I will just curl round, because that's just the area that I will use to hold the fibres, or if I do decide to do little toes with wire, it would go through that little bit there, basically. Okay. We'll go over to here and hope that sorts itself out. No idea why that's doing that. Okay, we'll see. 30 minutes in and the camera's gone a bit odd, but anyway, the main one, the overhead, is fine. Okay, so let's carry on. Okay, so that's that, and then that's kind of that. Move that there. To that, and yeah, that's basically, we've got a little bit of an ankle there, which comes down into that big paw. So we'll once again produce a rounding bit. As I say, will be either used or cut off, basically, depending on when I get there, how useful that is. But at this stage, it just gives me my skeleton from which to build, basically. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just go back to that one a minute. Okay, so here we are, one completed armature, all ready to get the next step, which is to start adding the fibre, which in this case, well, I don't know actually, I say in this case like I made a decision. I shall make a decision when I get to that exact point, because the next step is to decide whether I'm going to wrap any pipe cleaner around it to help the wool attach to the armature without it spinning round. Sometimes it works just fine without it, and it all depends whether I'm going to use wool fibre for the core or whether I decide to use the recycled plastic bottles, which as I've mentioned before, I like the concept of that, because we're stopping it going into landfill or in the sea, and we're using it for something which isn't going to be thrown away, hopefully. Anyway, so yeah, that's the next step, and I will come back when I've got some of that done, and show you. And what I'll try and do is do a video of it, even if it's sped up, as opposed to going through in great detail, because otherwise we'll be here for a very long time. Anyway, so see you very soon.